I hope you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, reduce the volume. Can you guys hear me? For those that are joining everyone, I'm so happy to be here this evening. So for those that are joining us, just reduce the volume. You don't have to reduce it permanently. I mean, lower it permanently. I like to see the music still going on. The guys that are joining us from where you're joining us from, that would be great. And those are on YouTube, I'll be looking at the YouTube guys that are joining us from YouTube. Just drop your location and let me know if you're excited to join this session this evening. So I'm looking at the chat. Where are you guys joining us from? Drop your name and where you are joining us from. It's going to be a fantastic conversation in the next 15 minutes thereabouts. Guys, I'm so excited to be interviewing Oluwatobi in this one. Guys, it's going to be a very packed and interesting session. So drop in the comment section where you are joining us from. I will be starting this session shortly.
So, you decided to start a career in tech, but it has been so overwhelming. And I know we said we will not agree for anybody this year, but you have met with challenges that you never foresaw. Well, no worries. Skill Harvest is presenting Starting and Staying with Tech with the tech expert Oseni Oluwatobi. Join us on Friday the 29th of March 2024 as we learn to thrive in the digital space. See you there.
Yes, I'm reading now from YouTube. We have I can see. Let me mute my YouTube so that the voice is not disturbing the whole conversation. I mean, you can keep the music going. I just want to welcome more people to the conversation before we start. I can see Isaac from Oyekiti. That's interesting. Ify from Abuja, welcome to the conversation. Oyeshino from Kaduna State. Where in Kaduna? Are you joining Oyeshino from Main Cardinal? Good to have you on the call. Oloke, glad to be here. From where, Oloke? Where are you joining from? Otto Godwin from Ogun State. Nice guys. Guys, I want you to drop in the chat either you're on the Zoom or you're on the YouTube link where you're joining this conversation from. In the next 2-3 minutes, we'll be starting, but I'd like to welcome everybody to this conversation. It's going to be interesting evening. Next 45 minutes will be very interesting, guys. If you have other colleagues that are on this program, software development, mobile development, copywriting, product design, make sure you share this link on the group and drag your colleagues, drag them to this call. They have to be on this call. It's really going to be interesting conversation. Yes, I see more people coming in. Solido, I can see you from Anabra. Welcome to the call. Ifeleke Dinoyo from Lekki, Lagos. Amazing. Azuka here from Onitsha. Welcome, guys, to the call. Good to have you on the call. Again, drag your colleague here. In the next 2-3 minutes, we will continue. So keep dropping that in the chat where you're joining this call from. And in the next 2 minutes, we're going to start. Welcome to the call, guys. Guys, welcome back. I've seen a lot more interesting people joining this call from very interesting places outside of Nigeria. I'm still waiting for the the South African guys. I mean, the guys from outside Nigeria to join this call. You know, I used to see guys from Ghana and other part of the country from Africa. So I'm waiting for you guys. Where are these guys? Where are they? I will drag them into this call. Harrison from Abuja, welcome to the call. Welcome to the call. All right, guys. Well, we're starting now. And we'll be starting the conversation now. Welcome everyone to the call. If you can hear me, just reduce the music or probably even stop it now. My name is Fikun Aluko, and I will be yours for this conversation this evening. If you are starting a journey in tech, you are starting something remarkable, actually. But just like any other field, tech comes with its own set of challenges. And having that knowledge about how not just to start, but to stay consistent and flourish, to do amazing things while you are driving your career in tech space is critical. And that's why we're having this conversation this evening. So I want you to get, I don't know if you, I mean, if you're going to get popcorn, I don't know if that works, or get a soft drink. I would say you get a coffee because very hot weather in Nigeria, right? But get something that you can use to accompany yourself in this conversation. Feel relaxed, get comfortable, and make sure you have something you can document some of your learning with. You know, it's very, very important. When you don't take notes, sometimes you just forget things, right? And ask questions. I don't just want you to be a passive audience. I want you to maximize the time with the expert we have in the room and ensure you maximize the airtime. So before we continue, we'd like to hear from some of our previous participants in Skill Harvest program, some amazing testimonials. We take those testimonials, some of them are video, some of them are in person. Then we come back to the conversation, and I'll be introducing our guests for today. So guys, sit tight, I'll be back. Now we're going to take these testimonials and I'll be back.
My name is Mate, and I enrolled in Skill Harvest Cohort 2.0 program for content creation and social media management. Now, my journey so far has been an exhilarating one with the most hands-on facilitators and a beautiful community of like minds who are driven towards the same goals. Now, prior to signing up for the program, I had struggled with putting out content on social media. But a few weeks down the line, and I can tell you that my content has been out there. My followership has grown by over 300%, and views have also exploded in thousands. Now, this is not to exaggerate, but it has been great so far. I cannot wait to see what the future holds for my career in content creation and social media management. I look forward to the future. Thanks to Skill Harvest.
My name is Owoka Wankego Joan. I am a student at Skill Harvest studying digital marketing. Well, if I have to use one word to describe my journey studying digital marketing at Skill Harvest, I would say transformative. Skill Harvest has helped in pointing me to the very many potentials I never knew existed inside of me. I am particularly grateful to have a tutor like Mr. Olajide David. As vast as digital marketing is, He systematically yanks out all the technicalities and ambiguity and simplifies it for everyone. Thanks to him, I am now equipped with the necessary skills needed to navigate the ever-changing digital marketing terrain. As a content writer, I used to think I was good to go. But then, here in Skill Harvest, I got introduced to the act of social media storytelling, and it has been a total game changer for me and pushed up the analytics in my business so far. After my 3 months of studying in Skill Harvest, I can authoritatively say that everything about this institution is carefully put together to make sure we succeed. There is the institution itself with the right incentives needed to put us on our toes and exhibit discipline, the informative and educative programs that they churn out periodically. Then there are the facilitators, the absolute best brains, carefully selected to impart nothing but premium knowledge into us. Then can we also talk about the Skill Harvest robust and vibrant community? Here in this community, I have seen firsthand the magic that can happen when different unique minds collaborate. I have witnessed creativity on another level, and all this has truly inspired me and pushed me to become a better version of myself. I want to say a big thank you to Skill Harvest and to my facilitator. And I say, God bless you all for the good work you're doing, literally harvesting the potentials in us and challenging us to be better and to do better. Thank you, Skill Harvest.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening,
My
Palumi. Go
name
ahead, I
is-
can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. Yes. I reside in Ibadan. Currently, I'm currently in Ibadan. And
Yeah, you are breaking up.
the first graduate class with the quote one set where I let the digital market and that's the beginning of my journey into tech now. Now, we have School of Product, we have School of Tech, and we have School of Creative. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So after training with Skill Base, I got an opportunity to intern Skill Base at first. After we are done, so which is I got to two other company. First, there's a Christian community called National Christian. So that community has been a good platform for me to harness my skills. And also, it's another logistics company that got me to also interact with them. So at the moment, the load management is this company, so I'm in charge of the social management, and also I run a heart for at the same time also with Christian community. So this international Christian community, I was part of the team that planned in earlier this year in January. So I learned experience and able to help me to be able to practice effectively. So I'm grateful to the opportunity. So I'm still as time goes on, I'm open to opportunities as time goes on. My experience like receiving an intern has also helped me to shape me for the journey. to scale.
Hey, thank you so much, Pelumi. We cannot hear you clearly. I guess the internet has been very terrible in the last few weeks, so that's understandable. We're happy that you and Ego had tremendous experience in the last cohort, and also Mate, amazing video testimonial. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing. Now we're moving to the business of the day. Our guest today is Oluwatobi Oseni, and I will read his profile shortly before bringing him on board. He's going to be having his first short keynote, and then we'll dive in directly to the Q&A sessions. Oluwatobi Oseni is a global shaper from Abuja Hub. He's the leading expert in digital equity. Having collaborated with UNESCO, GIZ, Code.org, Facebook, Microsoft Nigeria, and many more international and global organizations. He owed an MA in International Education and Development from University of Sussex. Is recognized by UNESCO and Clayton Global Initiative University. Oluwatobi is a Chivney scholar and is currently building a fintech and e-commerce platform called PageTrigger, with the goal of helping business to process millions of dollars in transactions globally. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Oluwatobi Oseni to the conversation. Oluwatobi, are you ready for us to take your keynote speech?
Thank you so much, Fikun. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I would turn my camera up fully. It doesn't, the internet doesn't lag.
It's 7:30.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me, Fikun?
Good to be here. Yeah, we can hear you clearly, loud and clear.
Perfect. Yes, so you want me to do, and I mean, you've done a fantastic work with that intro. You want me to go straight, or you want me to do some sort of intro before we can then?
Yeah, you can do some intro. You can share more about yourself, about your work, what you're currently working on, and then you can share a bit of your thoughts around our big topic today. We starting and staying in tech, and then after that, you could do that for the next 10, 15 minutes. Then we come back to take some few questions about an additional 10 minutes and we'll wrap it up. Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, I would share my screen to for us to be able to do this well. But before that, I also like to, talk a little bit about my own career and why what we are doing right now is really important. As someone who does not have a background, in a technical field, I went to the university, Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, to study for a degree in management and accounting. And then I went on to do an MBA and then eventually did another master's in international education and development. And with no exact formal education in computer science or, being a technology expert, I have sort of had a very interesting learning curve and career path. And I think that's what makes this section very exciting. For those of us who, for example, are on the call and want to grow in tech and do not have a formal background in tech, those who are studying computer science or things related to that, oftentimes I hear a lot of young people say, how easy or hard is it for me to excel in tech despite not having a degree in computer science? And so one of what I want us to look at is how we can get started in a career in tech. Technology right now, it's a very, very unique space. We 5 years ago, there was a lot of buzz around crypto, and it was like the new word. Now there's a lot of buzz around machine learning, AI, and then it seems like it gets more complex, as you go further and new technologies are coming up. And so one of the most important things that I like to say all the time is, how do you ensure that you can keep up with the race? You don't sort of become old school. And I'll use one example that my father he gave me one time. He said, when computers became really popular, people who had trained as typists. And for example, in government offices in Nigeria, there were people who were typists. That was their JD. They were the ones who used to write letters for government organizations. When the computer came and a lot of people started having computers, typists lost their jobs. They were now redundant because it now meant that they really didn't have any use for them because nobody was using a typewriter again. And everybody could then use a computer to type something or maybe your mobile phone. And that's how I like to see how technology has progressed over time. If you choose not to upskill yourself, you will be lost out. And then that's when you become quite disadvantaged. Why choose a career in technology? I have a very interesting career, but the first 10 years of my career, I was teaching people how to code in different projects funded by UNESCO, Microsoft, Facebook, Google Nigeria, the World Bank, and a couple of other people. And there's anything I've seen is the fact that I constantly say that, for example, we should be technologists in every other field. And this is what I mean. The guys who designed the Apple Watch, for example, were doctors who knew how to code. And so it would have been a much different curve if, for example, I was a software developer and now I want to learn how the human heart works and then being able to read it. And it takes me more time, unlike a doctor who already has that foreground knowledge and then can use technology to enhance it. And so tech gives you unlimited opportunity depending on what you currently do. You might choose to create content, but the mere fact that now you don't, for example, don't have to rely on traditional media who might, ask you to pay before they air your videos. You can post a video on TikTok and it can have 2 million views in 24 hours or less than that. And so that opportunity, for example, is limitless. We've seen people, in the tech bubble, before the tech bubble burst in 2021, we've seen people move from entry level to mid level within two years. And now that things are stabilizing, we see what a normal partner looks like. But most importantly, we've also seen the fact that there is high growth potentials. And this is what I mean in it. Unlike many other fields, for example, let's take, for example, banking. It probably will take you almost 10 years at an average Nigerian bank that is progressive for you to become an assistant manager. But we have people who in 3 years can become full product managers and go on to work at very interesting companies and perhaps get really skilled enough to work at FANG or being skilled enough to even work at top startups in the ecosystem here in Nigeria also. And so it's one of the most important things that we also need to look at for. As a person who wants to work in tech, there are two core parts, and this is what I like. What I like to say all the time is you have to be result-driven rather than being, result-driven rather than being money-driven. And so this is what I mean. I know it's easy to say, but it's sometimes more practicable because you need to be able to clearly say that if something drives me, I need to be sure that I'm able to action on it. And this is what I mean. I see a lot of people who build products and what they want to do is, for example, join a startup and you always want to, you want to spend 6 months at the startup, you want to move elsewhere, because someone else is willing to pay you more. But I'll tell you something very interesting. One of the things I've seen help a lot of young people in their career is what I will call stability. And this is what I call stability. If you grow a product, I'll take, for example, you work at Shiga, for example, and then you put Shiga to a stage where everybody understands what this product use case is, and the product is pretty popular. When you move to your next startup, for example, it's easy for you to say, oh, I worked at XYZ, rather than you to have, let's say, 20 career paths or 20 jobs in maybe 5 years on your resume, and then you cannot really point to an actual product that you've built. And so despite the fact that there is high growth opportunity in tech, I always advise people to have some stability, especially in your early days in tech. Interestingly, I believe that, because this is a skill-averse call, I would believe that we are quite familiar with a lot of things we can do, technical and non-technical skills. And most importantly, the fact that there's a bridge now between technical and non-technical skills. We've seen product designers who can code, and also being able to implement their own, their own designs, which I think brings a new spark to what that looks like. One of the most essential skill sets, really, I'm more like every other thing you would do, is problem solving. And what I like to see as problem solving is being able to understand the solution that you are trying to build. And so this is what I first say. You have to think 2 ways. You have to think one as a user and then one as a person building a product. And by building a product, for example, in most cases, it would be you trying to solve a problem nobody has actually solved. And so if you work as part of a team trying to solve problems, and I will use examples, for example, in our own ecosystem, we've seen startups like FullGap, we've seen a couple of very interesting startups who have tried to build solutions that did not exist before. And so you then have to think of the problem as the people who are going to use your solution and say that if I was going to use this solution, for example, what would I expect? How would I want to interact with this problem? Of course, you do a couple of things like take surveys and the rest of that, which would then shape in your ideas. But then you need to then be able to translate these into actionables and things that can actually address the problem that you're trying to solve. Because again, the only thing that would make a product successful is if you are able to solve an actual problem. And so I like to make one joke around careers in tech and also building products, which is that products are not supposed to serve your own needs, but they're supposed to serve a user's need. And so if your products, if you are satisfied with your product and there is a problem, it should be the users who should be satisfied and not you. You should be satisfied because the users are satisfied and not because the product makes you happy as a person. Continuous learning. I mean, myself and Fikun, Fikun has had a much more interesting tech career also. And I think that one of the most interesting part that I would see across our careers would be continuous learning, learning new skills, new technologies. When I started in technology, I used to be 2013, I used to be Mozilla Firefox ambassador for Nigeria. That's the browser. Probably explains why I like the browser anyway. And I moved up a little bit. I wrote some codes, and then I started teaching people how to code. I had a game startup one time, and I remember we were building augmented reality in 2017. It's interesting because I mean, augmented reality is still a very steep curve to learn to build even in 2024, and we're doing that almost 10 years ago. But one of the most interesting things that I've seen across this whole thing is continuous learning. You can't progress across any career if you don't continuously learn. But continuous learning does not mean that you abandon what you are doing and then you go to something else. And I'll give you one example. If you want to have a career as, let's say you want to be a web developer. Now, what that means is that you want to learn web technologies and adapt to new ones as they come in, or they come out rather. But also it means that you want to understand these technologies and, for example, how long these technologies will stay in the market for. And this is what I mean. There have been a lot of shift across languages, across stacks, and you've seen a lot of people use different tools. But it's easy to tell, for example, understanding how these tools work and to understand if this tool, for example, will stay for a much longer time in the market. And then one of the most important part of learning is that you would learn more informally than you will learn formally. And for context, I would say, for example, okay, I went to the University of Sussex on the Chevening Scholarship, but that would have cost me £33,000, for example. I mean, Fikun also the Chevening Scholar. And so if you think of the fact that, think of how many courses, for example, on Coursera or Skilldervest or Udemy that I could take with £33,000. So informally, for example, if I had £33,000 to learn in 1 year, you know, I could have learned a whole lot more. I could, you know, take 50 data science courses at the same time on Coursera and take 50 cloud engineering courses. And so continuous learning is not really about the borders of your classroom. You know, if I don't know anyone personally in the ecosystem in Nigeria and in London where I interact properly with, where that has not continuously learned something new, and you know, and has grown in the ecosystem. And this is because one, even for the sake of conversations, you know, you need to know new stuff. You might be invited to a panel to speak about a new thing. And in most cases, you know, it is assumed that you know that stuff. So sometimes I see some invitations because, oh, okay, I lead a fintech. Someone wants me to come speak about payments. You know, they wouldn't mind if I was even the engineer writing the payment codes myself, you know, but they would want me to talk about it. And so you can't remove the place of continuous learning. Collaboration is one of the most important parts also. This means this. It means that you work in a team and there's a reason for it being called a team. And that's simply because you work together. And I like to see career building in tech as working in the army. If you have let's assume you are a battalion and you want to face, I mean, let's use a common enemy, Boko Haram, for example. If one member of the team is weak, it affects the entire team. And so what you need to do is to ensure that you need to work together as a team. Now, you should not be that weak person, and you should not also sort of discourage other people, you know, to be weak in that team. You need to build strong relationships. One of the most important thing in the ecosystem is relationship building. I've had a very interesting career. It's really weird when I actually say this. In the last 12 years, I have not applied for a single job. I've gotten most of them by someone poaching me or someone referring me. But what I think is very interesting about it is the fact that if you build strong relationships, um, somebody is going to speak on your behalf when you are not in the room. And this is what I mean. Let's say, for example, I'm having a conversation with Fikun and I say, oh, Fikun, I think I need a really good product guy. Fikun is definitely going to mention someone's name to me. And then what that means is that he's speaking on behalf of that person when the person is not in that room. Now, if the person did not have a good relationship with Fikun, you'll probably not be able to. If the person had a bad relationship, he would probably say, oh, this person is really good, but these are the downsides. And so one of the most important things you need to consider is good relationship building. And that's again because you might be learning with someone at Skill Harvest, and then the person gets into Google or Microsoft, the person would then be able to say, oh, there's this really good teammate of mine when I was at Skill Harvest that I think we can use on this project. And so again, I cannot overemphasize that skill set. Yes, so now the different sectors and how these things would interact in your career in technology. Earlier, I mentioned, for example, if you wanted to be a front-end developer, for example, you might want to start learning React, if you want to be a mobile React native, and then you want to focus on doing that. But as your career progresses, you find it sort of boring to stick on one technology. You want to maybe learn TypeScript as an addition, and then you want to become full stack and you want to add some backend languages to it. But also you need to understand that to build a successful product is a combination of everyone. And one of the common sayings in the ecosystem is that, so for example, be a good founder, you need to be a generalist. And so you need to have a little knowledge of everything. Now, when you start out your career in tech and you know that you really want to solve a problem, one of the core things to look out for is understanding how to relate and how different parts of technology works, or different parts of a team in technology works rather. And so this is what I mean. A traditional startup would have information that includes the technical guys, the guys who write codes, the product designer, the marketing guys or the sales and marketing guys, and also the product manager itself. And then how these people communicate with each other, for example, is the big high in between here. Now, I have an idea, you have an approach to it, Fikun has a different approach to it. And so we need to be able to find a meeting point around it. Now, this then breaks down to different sectors and roles. It means that we all have to play different roles in trying to solve this problem. Now, you would not, for example, most product manager in our space, in the Nigerian ecosystem, are not so technical. Or like, for example, those at Fang and the rest. And so now there's a new space called technical product managers. And so what that really means is that when you, for example, then want to approach speaking with a teammate, for example, who is a non-technical person, there is a way you do this so that it makes it easier for you to communicate ideas, two, for you to collaborate efficiently, and three, for you to have really great outputs. Now, depending on what you are trying to build, depending on how you want to focus your career, depending on how straightforward you think that your career might be in the beginning, I think that one very famous quote that stays with me is Tai Solarin's quote on "May your way be rough," and that's really because to have a really successful tech career, I think your way really has to be rough, and this is because if it is too easy, I think that to a very large extent, if your tech career is too easy, I think that something is wrong. And what I mean by too easy does not mean that you don't have great gigs. Now that is easy for you to get great gigs, but that's not really what it's about. It's really about solving problems. I like to see technology now as what manufacturing was in the second industrial revolution, and how it was so essential for manufacturers to manufacture because that was what people's livelihood depended on. And so, for example, if you are in our ecosystem where we need to play catch up. And so what I mean is this, the world moved away from building crypto. Thankfully, we had a lot of crypto companies. We had building locally in Nigeria, and now the world is building AI. A few Nigerian companies I've seen are trying to play catch up, really great stuff. And I hope some of you on this call are also trying to build AI solutions. And so it's quite important because it means that the future of the economy of Nigeria then depends on you. If you can build a successful AI startup, it then means that, you can place this country on the map and then you can help do more. In finding your focus in technology, the first thing you have to do is to find your passion. And earlier today, I was listening to Steve Jobs talk about how everything eventually would connect. And I would just use a simple example of my own career. I studied management and accounting. I am a chartered accountant. And I think one very interesting thing that I've seen is that even though I've never ever worked as an accountant, I tried to work at Financial Nigeria for a bit. And one thing I found is how useful my formal education in accounting has been. The fact that now that I run a fintech, I'm able to bring that knowledge of of accounting into what I do now. And so connecting that dot, for example, has been quite helpful. Now, no knowledge would waste. Now, first you identify your passion, then you explore your interests. And then when that really happens, you then find a meeting point between your passion, your interests, the knowledge you've acquired, either formally or informally, and then you can then use that to narrow your scope. Now, at a more advanced part of your career, you cannot be a generalist. What I mean by being a generalist is that you cannot be a product manager writing codes, do product design. At some point you have to be, for example, known as, I'll just pick one person on this call. So if, for example, at one point in your career, you have to say, oh, Blessing, the product designer. And so it then means that you need to be able to straight up say that this is what I want to do with my career. And this is what how I want my career to really go. Now, when you find your interest, you then need to make sure that you are really good at it. I like to see real life as, I watch a lot of lion hunting videos, and that's what I like to see real life as. It does not mean that you have to kill, of course. It just means that real life is about sharpening your skills, ensuring that you can do better, and that's your today is better than your yesterday, and of course your tomorrow is better than the both days. And so that's one very important part about doing that. Now, I would be touching this at the surface level because I believe that we would have questions, and then these questions are what I would then use to address this at a more personal level. Like I mentioned earlier, the most important foundation you can do is education, whether formally or informally. And one of the easiest ways to learn informally is to simply go on YouTube. And I have this very interesting routine of when I'm doing every other thing else, I just have Spotify playing in the background, listening to industry leaders across the world, Sam Hartman and a couple of cool guys who are simply just talking about everything. He might be talking about how AI is shaping something. It might be a 1-hour interview. But what is happening is that you're learning and keeping yourself up to date. Now, the knowledge you would gain from listening to people, for example, Sam Altman, the guys at Y Combinator, and even our own ecosystem leaders, Enyabo, GB, a couple of other great people who are shaping this ecosystem and are contributing to both knowledge and products on this side. And listening to them, you can, for example, do 50 hours of listening to them, and it's more knowledge than you would get from maybe even getting what's it called? A diploma program in new technologies, for example. And this is because these are the guys who are building it and who are shaping new technologies. And so you really cannot remove that part of it. Certifications are really great. And why certifications are great is because if again, we're in a very credentialized economy. And so what that means is that some people will simply just employ you because you have a certificate program from Skills Harvest, and because you have the certificates to show for it. And I'm sure that we've seen this in many instances in Nigeria here, and also we've seen this play out in many instances here in Nigeria. Practical experience is also one of the most important things that you can also do to your career, and practical experience is really where the hands-on comes in. Now, in your early days of your career, I see a lot of people who make this big mistake. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get paid well enough. You should get paid well enough. I mean, you have bills to sort, so that you don't go broke. But you should also chase results. And what I mean by chase results is that while it's okay, I'm going to use big complaints in the ecosystem. While it is good for you to try to get into Paystack at an early stage, I still think that, for example, there are some other startups whose founders or team members are really great people. They might even be ex-Paystack guys. who you can learn from, and which I would consider low hanging fruits because they want your kind of talent, because they want people who they can shape into building something great. And so you'll probably be able to learn better because you'll be closer to the top than you would have been if you were working in a much bigger startup. Now, if you work at a startup that has, let's say, 2,000 staff, you are not close to the main operators. You know, you are under a manager who is under another manager before you get to the C-suits. And so if you choose to work, if you, at the beginning of your career, what you should chase is that practical experience, the knowledge, you know, that you can get from volunteering, from working on side projects, from internships, you know, and while you still ensure that you're able to grow. And this is what I say all the time. And you can refute if you think it's wrong. No knowledge would ever waste. Now, if you know something and you're really good at it, it will be rewarding in the future. Now, the future doesn't have to be far enough, because when you, for example, become a really good front-end developer, for example, you can go online, you build beautiful project. You can go online, put your put your portfolio together and apply for remote jobs, or even just get jobs that can really scale your career. But remember that you've had to pay the sacrifice of learning. And then one of the best ways to learn in technology is to actually build something. Now, for most big companies, for Frank, for example, they would say, it's either you have a PhD and come in here as a PhD person who brings in the academic knowledge and new technologies, or you have built this answer. And so there's that bridge between it. And I think one reality we also need to tell ourselves is that for those of us who are non-computer science background, we need to also remember that no matter what it is, except you are really technical enough, it's not, I wouldn't say it's twice as hard, but you really need to prove yourself. And this is because it's easy for me to believe if Fikun tells me he studied computer science and he can code. But if you tell me you study sociology and you can code, I want to see it. And I want to make sure that you are really good at what you say. But if Fikun comes to me with a degree saying, oh, first class from Covenant University, computer science, and he says he can code and he shows me projects, you know, I might really not be inclined to wanting to test his skill set again, because I've been able to, again, fall back on credentialism to say that, oh, okay, this guy really just might be good because he has the academic qualification for him to do this. And so that's one other important part that we need to know in starting and staying with the technology. The most important part of getting a new gig is what I call an award-winning resume. And so the good thing about resumes these days is that you really just need to beat ATS, application tracking system. And what that means is that get a good template online, modify it, use ATS applications online to see if you can beat it. So you take, okay, so this is a trick I do. You take the keywords from the job description, you run your CV against it just to be sure that your CV is able to pass those kinds of keywords. So, for example, some JDs care more about qualification, academic qualification. And then you have decided that, oh, maybe because I went to LAUTECH and I feel like, oh, maybe I had let's say maybe I had a 2-2 or something. And I'm like, I don't want to put it in my resume. I mean, I have good experience. Let me remove it from my resume. But that is what they want to test against, you know, because a lot of what they've put in the JD for them to be able to look at that is academic. And so I always say that a winning resume really needs to be tested before you can say it is winning. Don't use the same JD, for example, to apply for, the same resume rather, to apply for 20 different gigs. You know, if you structured it for a people specialist role, it should be different when you structure it for a pure HR role. And, you know, try to, of course, don't lie, stay within, always tell the truth in your resume, but always make sure that you sound convincing enough. And there's one key approach in writing a good resume. I call it the STAR approach: situation, task, action, and results. You need to also be able to show, and then that's why I said in slide 2 that if you're part of a team building great stuff, you need to ensure that you can show results, you know, and so that's one other very important thing for us to look at. And also acing technical interviews is probably the easiest part, I think, in tech. And why I think that is the easiest part is that if you have an interview, you should prepare carefully for interview. And that's again because in most cases you would be scared, you would be frightened. And then depending on, for example, who your interviewers are, you might just lose confidence when you get in. And so there's always a need to prepare. Don't be overconfident. There are a lot of materials on YouTube, people who have simulations on interviews, and also for you to be able to do that. Now, most tech interviews, thankfully, are remote, rather are virtual. And so it makes it easy for you to even simulate. It makes it easy for you to say, oh, I'm not going to look at this person in the face, but I still want to be able to read body language, and you want to make sure that you understand this carefully, especially again, when you apply for remote opportunities where you cannot interpret emotions of the people interviewing you because they are from a different, what's it called, a different part of the world. Emotions are interpreted differently. For example, if a Nigerian is enjoying what you're saying, he's probably nodding his head and following you. But from some other part of the world, they're probably nodding their head because you're going off point and they just really want to end this thing in time. Yes, so different part of tech that I'm sure that we know of: software, product, data science, and then different things that would be important to it. Now, what I like to do when I speak to people in sessions like this is to ask them to do this. You need to draw what I would call a new timeline of your life. And what that means is that you need to pick a point A, a point B, and a point C up to a point D. Now, a point A is where you are right now. And so you need to be able to define where you are right now. Now, let's take, for example, I am a beginner product manager, for example, as point A. I want to say that point B, I want to reach point B by December this year. And by point B, it means that I want to be a very knowledgeable product manager. Now,
It's 8 o'clock.
For me, I would then say for point C, I want to be a mid-level product designer, product manager, and then I'll put that at, let's say, June next year. What that means is that I want to be able to apply this knowledge that I say I've gained, and 1 year from when I started my point A, I'm able to let that give my career a jump to become a mid-level product manager. And then that's a very short-term plan. And then between point C and point D would be a long-term plan of me being a very skilled product manager, now not mid-level, but an actual product manager, maybe not senior yet. And so for you to be able to do that, you need to have a combination of beginner courses, which would do continuous development for you to get you from a point A to point B, industry events, which is great for networking. And I always tell people, the people you meet at industry events are as hungry as you are. It means that they want to learn. It means that they want to collaborate. It means that they want to do great stuff. And so combining this again with more online resources, it helps you build a great professional network. You meet a lot of young people and people who are dedicated to wanting to do better for their careers. Yes, so I think that I've taken a lot of time. I would take Fikun, I think do you have some questions for me, or you want the audience to ask questions?
Whoa. That was packed. Like I told you guys, I said this guy is loaded. Thanks so much, Toby, for sharing. I'm going to head directly now to the YouTube page to see if there are questions. I have some for you, but also I want to give these guys a first-hand opportunity to lead the conversation because I want them to maximize the resources we have in the room. So I already dropped in the last probably 10 minutes ago that people should drop their question, and I asked them to put some question tag. There are some that one I can see only just one question here. So I'm going to start with my guys. If you're on this call, if you are in this Zoom room, or you are on the YouTube, I want you to ask questions. You see, in live, the answer you are looking for is actually people are going to give you those answers. So when you see people that are this resourceful, you want to literally extract those resources. So this one I want to ask you. What do I do as a beginner? Because there's so many things to learn and I'm overwhelmed. I'm working 9 to 5. It's paying my bill, but after my bill, that's all. I can't say. I've joined Skill Harvest program. I'm learning, but even I'm struggling to catch up because I understand what I've been taught, but I don't have enough time to even dedicate to it. Yet, there's so many things I need to learn. And I want to transition out of this career. How will I go about it? Because we have many questions, I want you to keep your response short. maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute, just straight to the point so that we can take more questions. We have just more, like 7 minutes to wrap up this session. What will I do? Because I think most of our students are in that, pardon me, most of our participants are in that category.
Yeah, I think one really short answer I'll give to it, and I think also it might be easy for me to say, is time management. You can't get anything done if you can't properly manage your time. And I'll use an example of when I was studying in Europe. I had classmates. I was lucky I was on scholarship. I had classmates who were doing 2 jobs, still studying a degree in maybe law, and they were able to still graduate, become first-class lawyers, graduates of law, still those jobs to make ends meet. And so I know Lagos is a very tough city these days. The traffic is a different kind of traffic. And then there is a lot of stress. But I think you need proper time management. And so proper time management means, one, you need to know how you learn, and two, you need to know how to allocate this timing properly. I believe everyone on this call has a smartphone. And so usually you need to be able to make very good use of what you have. You need to, for example, be able to say that even when I'm in traffic, I want to plug in my headphones and then still take courses. I want to still read something, even if I have to read it 10 times. So it means that at the time I've saved in traffic, for example, reading all over, or reading, let's say for 10 days, reading the same PDF all over again, I would have gained something in that 10 days. And so it's quite important for you to be able to know what you have, know that time is finite, and see how best you can maximize it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Some of the other challenges is, how do you break into a very competitive space? We know that these days, most hiring managers or companies, they're very reluctant to take beginners. How can I package myself that I look attractive to potential hires? That would be my second question. You're on mute, Toby.
Yeah, so packaging yourself to look attractive I think, again, is very simple. And is like I said earlier, you need to be able to make one key sacrifice, which is you need to say that, what do I need the most at this point in my career? Do I need the money, or do I need the experience? Now, these days you might get lucky and find some internships that will pay you well enough. But for like most careers, investment banking, maybe even law, you need to learn from somewhere. And so, which is why, for example, I love the apprenticeship scheme that you guys do, and a couple of other people also do, and which is what gives you that foundation to learn. But also, one other important thing that you can do is build your own professional network. Draw a team out of your colleagues at Skill Harvest, for example, and all of you come together to build a product. The product does not have to solve an exact solution. So let's take, for example, the one who build a mock payment solution. We want to be able to say that, okay, Fikun was the front-end guy on this project. I was the back-end guy on this project. Fentola was the product designer on this project. And so be able to then use this to showcase my skill sets. Now, most people, and I say this as someone who is also hiring, most people don't want to hire people as their first gig. But now you've already built something. And so it's no longer your first tech job, because you can then say that you worked with a team of 4 other people to build this solution in 6 months. Now, remember that, for example, if your job is a front-end developer, your job was not to sell that product. Your job was to build the front end of that product. And so as long as you can then show that to whoever then interviewing you to say, oh, okay, I was a part of this product. This product is great. You can test this product is live on the store, or I can give you a simulation of it. I usually think that that works. One other approach to it is also, you have to look out for to directly reach out to people. I've seen people who have shot their shots to, use your LinkedIn well. Reach out to product managers or people who work at companies that you like, and ask them if they are willing to take an intern. I've seen people shoot shots of even wanting to be on paid interns. I know that you need the money, but if, for example, those kinds of sacrifices, you are in a position to make them, sometimes they are quite important also to push your career to where you want it to be.
Whoa! I think that's best in class, guys. So you're starting a new career in a new space. You have this apprehension and fear how you're going to break in. Now, this is a very practical advice on how you can go about it, that I just want to summarize from our guests. One is that you want to build your portfolio by trying to get your hand dirty, by being practical, build a product, participate, and that become an evidence you can share with potential employee, right? The second thing you want to do is that you want to go the sale route. You want to pitch yourself to people that have capacity to help you. And LinkedIn is a very fantastic platform for that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's so unique. All right, guys, I'm going to take more questions from the chat now. Let me see some. So I have this question here for our guests. Just give me a second. I want to pull that up. Guys, keep dropping your question. The question here is that how can I motivate myself? I have a lot of questions actually. We have a lot of questions now. So, please, how can one balance work-life commitments while pursuing a career in tech? That's one question. And the other one here is that how can I motivate myself to continuously learn in tech? I'm really struggling with learning data analytics. Let's start the first one. The first one is that how can I balance work and life commitment while pursuing career in tech? Incredible question. Yeah, I'll mute as usual. Sorry.
Oh, I'm not sure why I keep muting myself, but yeah, how can I balance a career in tech? And I'll use one very interesting example. I'm a very restless person, so it might be very easy for me to do this. But when I started out in tech, for example, I was a student at LAUTECH. I was trying to, very interesting story. Well, I actually applied to LAUTECH for medicine and surgery. And I'm sure a lot of people are asking, how did I end up getting accounting? Nigerian universities give you whatever they like. And so I remember again, my late father telling me, if you would study accounting, you need to make sure that you're a chartered accountant so that you're sure you can get a job. So I started ICANN. In fact, I finished my ICANN before I finished in LAUTECH. And then I had that on my neck. I had trying to get a first class and whatever it was. I had trying to get ICANN. I was a student politician. I did some politics in uni. And I added that with being a Mozilla Firefox ambassador. Again, I am a very restless person, so you probably can understand that. But in between all of that, I think I was able to find a balance between knowing that there is a bigger picture. And so you need to constantly motivate yourself. You need to find something that motivates you. I've met a lot of very incredible people who are motivated by money. And so you need to constantly remind yourself that if, for example, you are motivated by money, you need to constantly remind yourself that if you can get into Netflix, for example, Netflix has theory engineering ladders, begin entry level, mid level, and senior. That's $250,000, $500,000, and $750,000 per annum. Now you need to tell yourself that the people who work at Netflix, for example, they don't have 2 heads. And so if you want to get there in 3 years, if you want to get to Netflix in 3 years, you need to start that journey now. Now, there are many dynamics, for example, in Nigeria. And so you need to, this is what I tell people to do all the time. To speak on this will be much longer than 30 seconds. You take your notepad, for example.
No worries.
Or computer wouldn't let you see my notepad. You take your notepad and then you list the limitations that you have. As a Nigerian living in Nigeria, you know that your biggest limitation is power. I think the grid has failed again. That thing fails every other day. You say power, for example. Your other problem might be equipment. So you say you need a good computer, for example. And then one other thing that I'm sure you always need would be where to acquire that knowledge from. Thankfully, you have skills available for you to do that. Now, if you say power, how do I solve my power problem? In most cases, it's very difficult to solve that because it means that you don't have to buy a generator or something. But then I would say invest in getting maybe a power bank, those ones that charge computers, or an inverter. Now, sadly, because of the dollar rate, some of these things have gone higher. But there's a way to do this, and this is how to do it. If you live with someone also who you think has the same drive as you do, you can co-share. So, for example, I can have my friend, let's say it's 200,000. I bring 100, he brings 100, and then we bear the cost together, and then we're able to knock out the power problem. And then I can say that, okay, I can guarantee that I have enough power to power my computer or my tablets or whatever it is that I learn with. Now, the second problem is my equipment problem. Now, computers I don't think that, I see a lot of people who want to start out in tech. I even see some very incredible DMs on Twitter. Someone tells me he wants to buy a MacBook because he wants to learn how to code. And I just wonder what exactly you need a MacBook because you want to learn how to code. You can really start with a computer of 250,000 or 200,000 for you to learn how to code. And I've seen some very incredible people, some of who have been forced to support, who started even learning to code on their mobile phones. And we've seen a lot of these kind of examples in the ecosystem. And so look at your equipment problem. And I'll tell you one very interesting thing. I met someone who learned how to code by going to cyber cafes. Now, it's very easy and cheesy, but let me tell you what they did. Cyber cafes are out of fashion now. So these people who do these printing shops where you go to print and those kinds of things. This guy goes to one of them every day, and then he became friends with the owner of the cafe. She had a baby. He was always, being kind to her, just helping her out. But he was also using the computer in the free time, and he was learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That was where he learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on a computer in a printing shop, Ibadan. And so when you look at some of these problems, genuinely, for example, that your current income base cannot allow you to solve these problems directly. You then need to think of creative solutions. Can I borrow someone's computer to use at night and I give it back to him in the morning when it's going to work? Now, if you knock out these problems, the last one is how to learn. And as someone who I like to describe myself as an education expert and a learning specialist, I mean, I've done a little bit of work in that. I think that
amazing, guys. You have price of 2 for 1.
The most the most important thing you have to do in that is to understand how you learn. There are some people who can read calculus, for example, and they would understand it. There are some other people who they have to listen to it over and over. There are some other people who need to be taught one-on-one. And so the number one hack is you need to know as a person how you learn, and then you need to stick with that. Now, some people forget that there's a need to understand to have a foreground knowledge in certain things before you can progress. So, for example, you don't want to learn how to code and you go to C++. When I see people who do that, I'm like, what do you think you're doing here? You have a background in social sciences and you are learning C++. Start with things that would help you grow your mind and skill set for you to then be able to do course. And then that sort of prepares your mind and your brain for what you then want to do. Now, coping with it is quite easy if you are able to then apply these principles into shaping your life. Yeah.
Amazing.
I think there was another part of this question.
I just want to quickly summarize some of the points you've raised. So I want to quickly summarize some of the points you've raised. The question is that you are a beginner in tech space and you are building a career, but also you are learning and you want to balance work, life and work. Also, you are building a career in tech, but you are losing the steam and you want to keep the motivation. You need the motivation to keep going. And some of the highlights of this conversation is that, one, you have to find your why. There's have to be something that is driving you to go on this journey. It has to be something innate, something that can keep that. It could be money. Money is good enough to start you. Eventually, it has to go beyond money. It could be growth. It could be something bigger. It should be impact. That's so important. If you find that thing, no matter the challenge, you'll be able to press. More importantly, to your point, is that you need to be able to list out those challenges and find crazy way to solve them. And the other thing you are mentioning, which I think was very, very profound, is you have to know and understand how you learn, because that actually gives you an edge when you learn and actually give you opportunity to optimize your route to build that competence and expertise that you need, as a beginner in that industry. Fantastic. So that's it, guy. I hope you find it useful. All right. Very interesting question. Someone is saying, how do I get mid-level and C-level role? I think we need to probe further. What's their current capacity and proficiency? I imagine these are people that have been in specific sector and they want to transition into a new sector. I've heard a story of people that work as a manager in bank. Now they under 6 months, they could transition to product management in tech. I think this kind of question fall in that category. And I would like to hear your thought, Toby, on that.
Yes. So I hope I'm not muted this time. Okay, I'm not muted.
Oh,
yeah. So how do I get mid-level or C-suite role? Usually the easiest way to do this is building strong professional network. And I would say the first thing you need to do is to let people know that you have this skill set. Some people don't want to put themselves out there. Some people don't want to tweet about their work. Some people don't want to make LinkedIn posts about their work. But they want these things to happen. And the truth is that, again, like I said earlier, you need to then know that, okay, I don't want to tweet about my work. I don't want to put myself out there. but I still want to be seen. Now, it's a very big compromise because it then means that in a school of sharks, for example, you want to be the shark that stays at the back, but you also want to win the race. Now, two things that you need to do would be one, to write a great resume and ensure that you are what I will call a mid-level material. Now, mid-level material simply means someone who can be employed as a mid-level staff. Now, you might have the skill set, you might have done great things, but your resume does not show that. You've written a resume that does not even appeal to the HR person. And another thing you might want to do is to look at a different market, and it works all the time. And this is what I mean. In some other markets, they really, their definition of mid-level is different from our definition of mid-level. In the Nigerian market, mid-level usually refers to the years of experience that you have. In some other markets, it refers to the quantity of knowledge or what's it called, or things that you've been able to churn out. So let's take, for example, in some markets, they will tell you if you have a master's degree, you only need 2 years experience. And if you have a bachelor's, you'll say bachelor's plus 5 years experience. Now, you probably need to look at the different markets. Now, but the most important thing that you need to do is to make yourself a mid-level material or a C-suite material. One of the easiest ways to be in a C-suite material anyway is also to find people who are building solutions, people who just raised. I had a friend who targeted, and this is a very simple approach. What he did was very easy. He targeted companies that were YC funded for, I think, 8 months. And so I think YC funds, I can't remember how many companies they fund. But Y Combinator is a startup accelerator that funds startups across the world. Why he targeted YC funded companies is because at least it's sure that they have enough money to be able to pay to afford the salary. And then he's sure that they are doing great stuff. And he targeted them across the world. He landed interviews within 6 months. It was a whole deal of work because he went to YC's Twitter, went to their career page, try to get their HR emails or try to get the CEO's email, use tools like Hunter.io and pitch himself to to these executives at these funded companies. These kind of pitches are not easy because you cannot send the same email to 2 startups. If you are, for example, talking to Peshiga who does payments, you want to pitch yourself as a great person who understands and aligns with our goals. If you are talking with SkillAverse, which is education, you need to be able to pitch yourself according to that industry. And within 6 months, he landed a role in a different market in a YC funded company. And that's one other approach you can do. But all of this would not work if you've not made yourself a C-suite material. A C-suite material I like to put it like this. It's like if you want to get invited into the room, you have to dress like somebody who can stay in the room, essentially.
Excellent. Again, a short recap, guys, so that it sticks. How do I transition into tech and find a C-suite role, a mid-manager role? And the idea in this conversation is that, one, you have to be a C-suite material. Then the next approach would be that you have the competency, the capacity to work as a C-suite material, right? In that discipline, in that area of specialization. Then the most important thing, that you want to do is to ensure that you find your strategy, your roadmap, your route into that space. It could be by putting yourself out there. And if you don't want to do that, you could do a tailored target marketing, where you are pitching yourself to specific people. You could pick a specific industry, and identify a set of companies, and you are writing tailored pitches to their HR or to their CEO. So again, it comes down to strategy. And more important, the summary is that the substance itself have to be present before you can market it. Excellent. I hope that is helpful. I can see some questions here that I want us to dive into. I'm looking at time, we can't drag this any longer, but we need to wrap up. I'm looking for the one that look really unique. I'm going to answer some of them also. Some questions say that I'm learning data analysis, but when I find it difficult to understand what I'm learning, and what to do, teaching myself. So, it's a very interesting question. So saying I'm learning data analysis and I'm finding it difficult to understand what I'm even learning and what can I do, because I'm teaching myself. I believe, according to statistics, only 14% averagely of people that are signed up to self-paced courses complete those courses. So typically, it's very challenging. People don't have enough discipline. It's just how people are wired to keep going. Exceptional few people can do that, but most people, we belong to those categories. So where you need some accountability, motivation, support. And that's why I always advocate for people to join a coaching program, a training program where you have some support from the coach, from the other people that are learning together. So my advice is that if you want to learn any tech skill, the learning curve, most of them are very steep. So don't make it hard for yourself to try to do it alone. There are free and paid community where you can learn, and they are as loose as tied to different degree. So money may not be your challenge. It may be just effort to be very curious on Twitter, on different platform, where social media platform, where you can find opportunity to be part of the community. So that will be my response to you. Find a community and learn with community. When you work with other people, you go far. You work alone, you can be fast, but you may eventually gas out. That will be a response. The other question here is that how long does it take to learn a mobile development app? It depends on you. Averagely, probably you could say 3 to 6 months, depending on the stack, what you want to build, the kind of your commitment, the level of dedication, how quickly you're picking those content and learning those skill sets, and you are practicing them. All those things kind of influence the speed, So there are a lot of things. The stack you're picking, you yourself, level of dedication, your speed of comprehension, and how much you're practicing. Very, very important. So it's contextual, it's subjective. So it could be 3 months to 1 year to have the basic knowledge that you need to be able to venture and start something. It's good stuff. Okay. I want this question to our guests. Very interesting question. Please, what are some effective way for tech guys to showcase their skill in order to get potential employees and especially clients for those in backend? You're building an enterprise solution, a SaaS solution. So I think this is a good question. So how could a potential person showcase their skill set in a way that they seem appealing to you, Toby?
Yes, so I think that's a very, very, very interesting question. Again, because the best way, and this is as someone who doesn't even like to show off their work, I think this is a very interesting question. The best way to get people who would be attracted to what you do is to show it off. And that's why, for example, there's a concept in e-commerce called putting it in the face, a placement of product. And that's because if I place this bottle of Nestle in front of you, for example, you would be reminded that you need to drink water, and so if I hide it at the back, you just wouldn't remember that, oh, I'm supposed to buy water from these guys. And so that's the way it really works. If you really want to get noticed, you have to put yourself out there. But then as a back developer,
I'm curious for our time. Yeah, go ahead. But just
okay, yes,
I have two more questions I want you to. Yeah, all right.
Okay, but as a backend developer, it becomes tricky because you cannot display backend code on the internet for people to know. That's where the power of communities then come in. I know, for example, for one, each time I want to recruit engineers, I still did 2 this week. I had to post it on communities and ask people in those communities to refer people that they know. And that's because I would trust a group that has backend developers to find me backend developers than maybe trust my Twitter to find me backend developers, because I know that if you are in that community of backend developers, it means that you are a backend developer who is hungry to do more, and so I can easily reach out to you that way. So you need to find a community and tell yourself that between March this year and December this year, I want to join at least 20 international communities, locally and international rather, of different sizes. Google developers community and all of these kinds of communities where I can meet people who can speak for me when I am not in the room. That's the keyword.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that response. So the question is that, as a backend developer, how do you showcase your work in the way that you convince a potential company to hire you? And the question is that one is still about sales strategy. Anything, if you are playing any tech space and you want people to hire, you have to put yourself out there and in front of people consistently so you're in their consciousness. And when the opportunity arises, by default, they think about you. But to your point, sometimes it could be also very tricky because if what you're doing is intangible, what you can do now is to leverage community. So it's always important to be part of a bigger community. The other question that I really want to address quickly is that someone asking about there are some companies that are willing to hire you, employ you as a starter while you learn. Yes, but there are few because the cost of training is very high. People I typically want you to come to the environment and add value. So internship might be the best route to consider that help you to learn while you're learning. Also, people can employ you. But more importantly, what you want to do is that at least people want to know that you've invested enough in yourself. Nobody wants you to come to a system and they want to be the one pouring everything to you. So there's a level of baseline knowledge that you have that makes you attractive. Apart from that, you also demonstrate a level of agility, curiosity, intentionality that makes people want to pour into you. So those are what you want to get right. Then you start building strategies to land internship opportunity that help you to keep learning, keep growing. You access mentorship. Probably you can get some stipend, while you do that. I think that's a very good way to think about it as regard that. The other question I want to wrap up now is people asking you directly, our guests, are you willing to mentor people? How can they reach you? I think you can put your details in the chat about if you want to mentor, you can also reply in the chat. I don't know about that. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess people can follow you, learn what you do and probably, glean something from your well of knowledge by following you online. Another question here is for Modupe Akombi. I will advise Modupe Akombi to send me message on social media. My handle is at Fikwayomi Aluko on all social media. I want to know you are currently having challenges accessing some of the Skill Harvest material. I want all Skill Harvest team member on this call to note Modupe Akombi and ensure they reach out to her. Also, Modupe, please reach out to me so that this issue is sorted. The last question, as we wrap this call up in the next 1 minute, is that how do I build a portfolio? That's a very interesting question. How do I build a portfolio as a mobile developer? As a mobile developer, first of all, you are a problem solver. So, Xavier, the question I will ask you to do, is to ensure that you jump on YouTube tonight and just type the same question on YouTube. You're going to find the answer. It's a very simple way to build portfolio. Portfolio is simply an aggregation of the sample of your work in a more coordinated way, where people can see you showcasing your skill. So as a mobile developer, you could use GitHub. There are other platforms, but GitHub is one that you can use. So, Xavier, your assignment tonight is to go on YouTube and say that, how can I build my portfolio with GitHub as a mobile app developer? And you're going to find something useful on YouTube. Guys, like Toby said, continuous learning is the drill. Continuous learning is the drill. Toby has kind of eated on something very, very strange. Continuous learning is the drill. So, guys, the key is to keep learning and, and solving problems. So when you are stuck, what you want to do is that if I exhaust all the possible opportunity and solution in my sphere of influence, YouTube is one. So like this question now, if you go on YouTube, you're going to find answer. If you're moving to tech space, you have to be proactive, ready to solve problem and being curious, leveraging YouTube, Google to find some solution. Also, you will eventually work with people that you can leverage their experiences to gain more insight and become more efficient. But you want to do that baseline work of being curious and being someone, that on our own can self-lead. You have that agency. It's very, very important. That would be all for me. Toby, before we go, do you have any closing words?
Okay, yes. I mean, it's been really great chatting with you all. Really great conversation. Thank you, Fikun, for the invite. I think again, I'll just leave with one parting word that constantly rings in my head, and that's the fact that with intense pressure, water is able to drip still. And so what that really means is that if you are able to keep doing the same thing well, at some point you'll be really good at it. And who would think that, for example, water can drip still? Well, at a great pressure and at the right pressure, water can drip still. And so if it means that if you become really good, you can really do great things.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for joining this. Let's keep this conversation going. I want you to go on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, and share your thoughts. Tag me, tag Toby, on all those platforms. And if you have more questions, keep dropping it on the YouTube and Instagram, on Twitter. We're going to address that. Thank you all for joining and have a blessed weekend. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Toby, for coming. We have not taken your coming for granted. We are very grateful for your time and for your intelligence and resource you've shared with all our team member and even our community today. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Bye, everyone. Apologies for stretching it beyond the estimated time. Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye.